What's up, guys? I know the first week of the first true college football playoffs has passed, but today I'm here to talk about the playoff predictions going forward. First up, we got Ohio State versus Oregon. I'm going to start right off with the most controversial pick I have in this bracket. I think this game's a 100% toss-up, but I'm going to take Ohio State. Oregon is undefeated so far, but we all know it's harder to beat a team the second time. When they played back in October, it was a 32-31 victory for Oregon. I think that is going to give Ohio State a lot of motivation and a lot of determination to win this game. However, all of Oregon's games have been dominant except for the Ohio State game. I feel like this makes them a lot more intimidating team to play against. As far as Ohio State, they're a two-loss team, losing to both an unranked Michigan and Oregon. I feel like their domination over a solid Tennessee team does show that they're ready for the playoffs. And for that reason, I'm taking Ohio State. Texas and Arizona State. I think it's a very interesting matchup. Arizona State has lost to a few teams this season, including Texas Tech and Cincinnati. Both these teams finished the season unranked. I think this really shows the ability to be a team that can miss a step from time to time. But their big wins on the season is BYU and Iowa State, both of which are not bad teams and ranked 17 and 18 respectively. As for Texas, they had a pretty solid win over Clemson in the first round, but suffered both their losses this season to Georgia, who's also a playoff team this season. Unfortunately for Texas, the only ranked team that they've beaten was Clemson. As for the depth, Texas has probably the best quarterback depth in college football currently, with both Ewers and Arch Manning showing the high caliber QBs they can be. I think the big losses from Arizona State is something that Texas is going to take advantage of in the film and make a plan that will take advantage of the gaps they've found. Notre Dame versus Georgia. Notre Dame, their sole loss of the season is in Northern Illinois earlier this season back in September. However, I'm always skeptical of Notre Dame versus playoff teams. That being said, their only ranked win during the season was Army, and then Indiana in the first round of the playoffs. As for Georgia, they've beat a really good Texas team twice, a good Tennessee team, and Clemson. All of these wins coming against ranked teams, but fell to a hit-or-miss Alabama team and a solid Ole Miss team. I think their biggest red flag currently is playing with backup QB Gunnar Stockton. He's not a bad quarterback though. He showed his toughness against Texas by taking some big shots. He also went for 206 yards and a 78% completion rate against a playoff caliber Texas team. However, he did go for 0 touchdowns and an interception. But for the sole reason of resume, I'm taking Georgia over Notre Dame. Boise State versus Penn State. Boise State comes into this game with one of the most dominant running backs in college football, who I think deserved the Heisman over Travis Hunter. Sorry, Travis. Ashton Jeanty had an amazing season. As for Boise State resume, they suffered an early loss to Oregon, and then went perfect, including 2 ranked wins over UNLV. I think this might be the hardest team to place in the playoffs based on their schedule, but they did have a really good season. As for Penn State, they have some blemishes on the record, including a loss against Oregon earlier this month, and Ohio State back in November. On the other hand, they dealt a big loss to SMU in the first round, and knocked off Illinois earlier this season. I think this game could turn into a real battle if Boise State stays in the game, but Penn State is going to give them a really hard battle, and if they allow Penn State to take an early lead, then this game will be over early. However, I'm going to take Boise State. I think realistically Penn State is going to have a lot of potential, but I'm really cheering for the underdogs in this matchup. Plus, I do really love Boise State Bluefield, and I think Ashton Jeanty has really done something special out of this offense. Ohio State versus Texas. This is where my predictions get into a game that could potentially never happen if I was wrong in the last round. So we have Ohio State versus Texas. I think this will be a great matchup overall. I think it's very easy to compare Ohio State to a Georgia level team. That being said, Texas lost to Georgia twice this season. I think at the same time, Texas will not be as easy as Tennessee. Texas has a great resume and won't go down easy. Both teams did play Michigan this season, with Texas winning against them and Ohio State losing against them. I think that won't be a factor in this game, and I think Ohio State will take it. However, I am an SEC fan. I just feel like the matchup of these two teams, Ohio State will come out on top. Georgia versus Boise State. I feel like Boise State is a great team and a really good contender, but they're coming up against one of the best teams in college football at Georgia. However, now that we know that Carson Beck is not coming back this season, this is where he can make a difference. I unfortunately do feel like this will be a pretty one-sided matchup and Georgia will run away with the game early. This is all given that they could shut down the run, because if they can't shut that down, then Boise State will hang in the game late and have a shot at winning it. So, overall, I am picking Georgia. Ohio State versus Georgia. I think looking at the right side of the bracket, Georgia is the biggest contender from that side. But Ohio State will have battled through Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas to have made it here. I think by that point, Ohio State will be pretty banged up, and Georgia might be pretty fresh. This is all given that Georgia is playing with a backup quarterback and can get here in the first place, but they have a real shot at winning. But that being said, Ohio State, no matter what, will not be an easy team to defeat. But overall, I am taking Georgia, just because I feel like Ohio State's blemishes from the season will shine through, and that they've battled through some tough teams in this playoffs. I think Georgia will just be the better team come the championship. But that's it, guys. That's my prediction for this year's college football playoffs. Let me know down in the comments who I have winning it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.